Welcome to the Traditional Stitches first video for our Anne Morrison Stitch Along. I'm Janice, the owner of Traditional Stitches, and I'd like to introduce you to our friend, Rose Heck, who is the leader of the Stitch Along on our Facebook group. Hi, Rose.
Hello, everybody. Welcome and thanks for coming and watching our video.
We're both pretty new to this, so we're going to do the best that we can and hope that you all enjoy watching us. We're going to talk a little bit about the sampler and the stitch along, and in the end, Rose and I are going to share with you our very first stitches on our samplers.
Woohoo! So I think Janice and I have been anticipating this date for a few months. And I've known Janice for a few years, and she is an extraordinary woman and a wonderful, she's so modest, and a wonderful shop owner. And I probably will ask her just to tell everyone a bit about herself and how she got to this point.
Well, in some ways, 20 years goes by so fast, and in some ways, it seems like there's been so many things that have happened. But I am super excited to be celebrating our 20th anniversary. Who knew we would be 20 in 2020 with all of the things that that's bringing along with us this year? I know you and I had hoped to do our stitch along video live on Saturday morning on our launch date, but we're making the best of it, and thankfully technology lets us do that.
Yeah, right. And I'm going to be looking at my notes up and down, so I apologize for that. There's going to be a lot of ums. Okay, so there is a few people that we want to acknowledge that have been a huge part of your journey from the beginning of this stitch along. And Nicola Parkman is one of them.
Absolutely.
And so Nicola, we appreciate you and thank you for all that you have done. Access Commodities, who have tirelessly got all of the silk floss to you, to your team, and out to the world. And I think you need to talk a little bit about your team at Traditional Stitches.
Yes, I have got a group of amazing ladies in my shop. And when we first started this stitch along idea, we never imagined 1,200 plus packages that we would have to mail. So everything from maintaining a ridiculous spreadsheet to preparing shipping on all of those sales receipts to packing all of those boxes. I can't tell you how much tape we've gone through in the last 2 months trying to pack all those boxes, to cutting fabric, to bagging threads. Everybody has just jumped right on board, and I couldn't be more proud of the ladies on my team.
I hope they're listening to this, and I hope they stand up and take a bow. We applaud all of you. I can't imagine. I've talked to you over the months, and there was always that little bit of tired, excited voice. And I thought, yeah, I can understand what you guys are going through, but yet I couldn't understand. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you. Thank you to your team. Thank you to you. Thank you to Nicola and Access Commodities. And without all of you, we wouldn't be here today. Okay, I should just quickly mention, if people don't know who I am leading the Anne Morrison SAL on Facebook. So if you see my name, I'm the person that you might want to ask questions for, but definitely Janice is on there all the time, most of the time. And there are other people that can help you with those questions. So that's my role in this whole scenario. Okay. Janice actually approached me a few months ago.
If I could,
go ahead.
I just want to interject a couple of things about our amazing stitch along leader here. when Nicola and I were first talking about our sampler, we knew that we needed a good, strong stitch along leader. And Nicola had lots of communications with Rose in the past, and Rose has been a part of the traditional stitches family for a long time. So she was a really, really easy person to agree to. And she jumped on it when I asked her. So that was awesome. Rose is also very active on social media. So you'll see her posting and liking lots of things. And so she was a natural choice. Something that I do want to say here is that I'll spend some time filling out the information in the drop-down box below this video with lots of hashtags and links and information, so that if any of you who are watching ever need anything or need to get in touch with us, you'll have all that information right below this video.
Perfect. Well, thanks for that. It's like, gosh, you know, that I don't think I hesitated. I almost didn't, you know, but it's been an honor, and it's been a fun journey so far. I think it's been easier on my part than on your part. It's been challenging, I know, on your part, but exciting. So we'll leave it at that. Okay, so the purpose for your stitch along, you want to talk a little bit about what you wanted to do for your 20th, and we may have touched on this before, but embellish a little more.
Sure. Well, 20 years in business is a pretty accomplishment that I'm pretty proud of. I remember when 5 years went by and we thought that we'd cross the hump, and then all of a sudden here we are at 20 years. So I had approached a few people about doing some things to celebrate our anniversary sampler, and Nicola jumped right on board. And we met at a Needlework seminar and huddled in the back room over Nicola's phone and looked at pictures of samplers, and we looked at some candidates, and so we came up with the Ann Morison plan then. And social media is just such a large part of things these days that we knew that we had to really incorporate that into what our game plan was going to be.
And I think you guys picked a really good design, reproduction design. Just watching some of the social media, the mentions about it and Flosstube videos and that, and everybody says, this is amazing, this is gorgeous. I'm not a sampler stitcher, but I've seen this and I have to get on board. So I think that's amazing. And I'm excited too about it. I know everyone is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Sorry, I just have to check my notes. Oh, okay. So the next little item that we have to mention, you had mentioned something to me, a little teaser the other day about something that's coming up. Can you fill us in a bit?
We have a few things to tease people about here. As everyone knows, the Ann Morison Stitch Along was supposed to start a couple of months ago, but because of the way that COVID affected our supply chain, we had to, and everybody was such good sports, we were so thrilled about that part, bump the Stitch Along date. So it looks like we might be celebrating our 20th anniversary for a couple of years to fit in everything that we had planned. But we do have a couple, actually 3 more super exciting exclusives for our anniversary year. And the other teaser that I want to leave here is that Ann Morison is not the only project between Hands Across the Sea samplers and traditional stitches that we have in the plans. So stay tuned.
I didn't know that.
Oh.
Well, I think I had an inkling, and maybe you dropped little hints. That is exciting. That is exciting. Okay, let me see where we are. I guess what we want to do is just make mention of our Canadian connection, and then we will talk a little bit about the sampler, the components of the sampler.
Sounds great. So when we chose the Ann Morison sampler, it appealed to me right off the bat because I think it includes all of the best things of samplers in my mind. There's some bands, there's some motifs, and the colors are just beautiful. And there are some specialty stitches. So I wanted something that could be open to anybody who wanted to join us, but that people would learn a little bit from. So that's the specialty stitches. So it was just a really easy decision on Anne. And then the Canadian connection is when Nicola showed me the pictures of Anne, she was being stitched by a Canadian model stitcher. So because our shop is located in Canada, we just thought that that made her even extra special for us. So it was great.
I like that Canadian connection. When I heard that, I thought that was really special, especially for a Canadian company encouraging a Canadian stitcher to stitch the model stitcher. So, but it has become international. And I know you've seen that, and I have seen that. I've posted some questions, and it's remarkable. It's absolutely remarkable. And I know you've seen that more, but that's pretty exciting. So why don't we give a little bit of a screenshot now of our Anne Morison.
Yes.
Okay.
Here she is.
So let's see. There we go. So hopefully we hold it long enough that Flosstube will actually take it as our screenshot. I don't know how long.
We should be good.
Okay. We should be good. Okay. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit specifically now. Is there anything else before we move on?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the components of the stitch along. And a little while back on the Facebook group, perhaps people had seen I had posted the chart with the breakdown. And we are spreading this stitch along over 12 months. And each month is fairly doable. So I'm going to just hold up my example here. This is, if you hadn't seen it before, this is the 12 months, and we're starting December 5th. And each month, on the 5th of the month, we're going to move to the next portion of the sampler. So this is our first month right here. We have this part of the border. We have this undulating double, I'm not sure what you call it, but one color goes one way, one color goes the other way, and they crisscross. And the second band there is a strawberry band right there. That is going to be our first month. Okay. Try not to move that too much. And we're going to start, and really everyone can start where they want on their first month. I myself personally am going to be starting in the top left-hand corner because that is just where I start. But you know what? You can do what you want to do. There is, to use an old saying, there is no stitching police. Okay, so you go through this at your own pace, at your own comfort level, and how you want to. We have some tips and tricks to make the stitching a little bit fun, or if you're unsure about certain things, we can definitely help you in that way. Okay. Okay. Well, one of the things I also want to talk about along with this is the little teaser at the end of the year, December 5th. And I think most people know that there is a prize at the end of this stitch along. And Nicola has graciously, is the word donated? She is giving an antique sampler to a winner. And it's quite simple, simply how to enter. You complete your design within the year by December 5th, and you post it to Nicola. And the email, and this is another something we will link to the bottom of this video. It's hats.competition@gmail.com. Okay. And then you post your finished picture and just leave a little simple note to Nicola, and you are entered. Okay. And just a little personal note, anybody can win. And if you think you would never win, I disagree, because I have been the recipient of one of her antique samplers, and it's pretty special for me. So just keep that in mind as you go through that. Keep it fun, keep it real, enjoy. And if you get it done in December 5th, please enter. Anything else that you want to add to that?
No, I think that's it. We're going to post, once this video goes live, we'll post a picture of the antique sampler that's up for giveaway onto the Facebook group so everybody can see their incentive for keeping up with us on this stitch along. So Rose touched on to the idea that there's no such thing as stitching police. And I am a firm believer of that. In everything that the customers that we talk to in the shop or emails, I really believe that there's always a compromise, and it's not really a compromise, but there is a line that every stitcher gets to pick between doing things perfectly and getting them done and being happy with the results. And so I encourage everybody to find where that place is for you in your stitching.
Correct. That does bring me to one item, and it actually, you know what? I'm going to touch on it a little bit later on. I'm just looking down at my notes, and I'll touch a little bit on mentorship. But I think now what we want to do is just take a pause, set up for putting in our first stitch. Okay, so that's exciting. Did you want to say anything before we set up? Or you just want to go right into it and talk as we are working through it?
Let's stitch, Rose.
Okay.
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 Welcome back. Rose and I are now set up in our stitching stations and we're ready to get started. So many of you who are joining us are stitching with the Soie 100/3 for the first time. And so it's beautiful silk. Once you use it, you are going to choose it again and again. But I have a couple little teasers or bits of information to share with you. So silk is different than cotton. And I would encourage you to try and use a little bit shorter of a length than you usually would use with your cotton thread. Start short and then see if you can extend the length that you cut it. Silk, because of the nature of its sheen, can get fuzzier to the eye faster. So I would encourage you to start with a shorter length than you normally would. So stretch it out. You can't really see it against the background, but 18-20 inches is a good length. Snip it off. So this is a good opportunity to talk about needles. And there was a little bit of a Facebook discussion about what needles we're using on the 45 count linen with the Soie 100/3. So I'm going to show you the packages of the two types of needles. And I actually keep them both at hand because one is useful in one scenario and one is useful in the other. And you might find yourself changing back and forth. So the first one that we recommend using is this guy. It is the John James ballpoint beading needle size 10. Some people can use a size 12, but I don't like struggling to thread the eye of my needle, so I use a size 10. The other one that we really recommend is the Bowen tapestry needle. Look at my handshake. In the size 28. So, and both of these you can order from our shop, and most other shops carry them as well. So I'm just going to thread up that length of thread that I cut into my tapestry needle, and I'm going to demo an away waist knot, which is my preferred way to start. Rose is going to show you a pin stitch start, which is how she works, but I haven't quite made friends with the pin stitch yet. So, and that's one thing that I would suggest is when I started stitching, we didn't have Facebook groups and YouTube and Google. So if you want to learn something new, or you want to find a way to improve what you're doing, the internet is your friend, absolutely, and this group is your friend. So we suggest using the resources that we have. Rose, who's that talking to us in the background?
Sorry, that's my dog, Lucy. I'm not sure. I think I should mention that my husband, Robert, is holding the iPad to record while I stitch. And I don't think she likes that nobody is paying attention to her. So I apologize for her little whining.
Oh, that's okay. All right, so away waist knot, let's see if we can see this in the video. So I hold the end of my thread parallel to my needle so that they're both pointing opposite directions. Pinch the needle, the thread to the needle, and wrap it 3 or 4 times. Pull it through to get a knot at the end of your thread. And then when you go to your fabric, park the knot from the top of your fabric a good 2 inches away from where you want to start your stitching. I'm guilty of always cutting myself short on my away waist knots, and then it's a struggle to rethread and tie in the back. So always give yourself a little bit more than you think you need. And so then I'm going to pull it through, and I've already measured out on my fabric my starting point. And that reminds me that I need to talk about margins on your fabric. So Nicola posted last week an excellent video on counting out the actual count of your linen, and then choosing what orientation you would like to have your linen. And so I'll link to that video below, but it is an excellent resource and I really recommend you looking at it. And also she's got a stitch calculator tool on her website that is excellent. And she explains how to use that in the video as well. I did count out my linen exactly like Nicola said, and I found that my piece of 45 count jersey cream is quite squarely, evenly woven. So I didn't have to worry about orientation. I just knew that the sampler was taller and narrower. So that's the way that I laid out my fabric. So I have my away waist knot planted. I know where I'm going to start my sampler, and so I'm just going to park my needle, and now Rose is going to talk about the pin stitch.
Thanks, Janice. Okay, sorry you cannot see me, but however, I hope you can see my area here. I have counted out my margins, so I'm doing a 3-inch margin, and I do my spot where I start 2 different ways. I did have a length of thread marking my corner. However, when I was practicing, it was getting in the way. So plan B, I used a counting pin. And counting pins are handy to have around when you need to mark something. And in this case, I have put it where my 3-inch corner is. Okay, so I'm going to take it out because it's left a large enough hole, and I'll put it aside. With a pin stitch, you are going to start from the top, and I'm going to actually go in the middle of my stitch. So the middle hole, I'm going to go right in. Okay. And I'm going to pull until I have a tail. And for this purpose, I'm going to leave a bit of a longer tail. Normally, I wouldn't leave that much. I tend to not like to waste too much, but for intensive purposes today, this is what we'll leave. I'm going to put my finger, my index finger, my needle is going to come 1 thread to the left of the center. Okay, I'll just bring my hand away and you can look. I'm going to pull it up all the while holding my thread. Okay, it's not secure yet, so I'm not going to tug. Next, I'm going to come back down the middle, and I like to pierce my thread a little bit just to help anchor. Nicola has a couple of pin stitch tutorials, and I'm not 100% sure if she does that or not. I find it helps a little bit. Okay, excuse me, I'm just caught up here. Okay, and I'm going to pull my thread down. Okay, I can give it a little bit of a tug, but it's not 100%. It's actually it's not bad. Now I'm going to go one thread to the right of my center hole. There we go. And come up, and I'm going to finish going through the center hole again. Okay, and I'm going to pull down. We're almost done. All I do now is I grasp my tail on the top and my length of floss in the bottom, which you can't see, and I'm going to pull them simultaneously, and that locks my thread securely. If it doesn't lock, and I've had that at times, redo it. It's not the end of the world. And then I'm going to snip my thread. Okay, left a little bit of a nub there, but that'll probably get covered. Final little test, pull your floss, and it's secure. And a lot of times that will help bury that start of your pin stitch. And then you can start.
So we've talked a little bit about strategy for starting between Rose and I. And are we going to work all the way across the top? Are we going to get started with our little zigzaggy border? And how do we count? How's the best way to count? So a few days ago, I had made a post about basting and counting with your basting, which you can certainly do. The other thing that I have handy for counting across is some counting pins. So I'm going to chug along my top of my border till I think I'm about there, and then I'm going to pull out my counting pins and probably put one in every 10 stitches just to see how I'm doing. I did notice that there's a couple of you who have gotten started already on your Ann Morison sampler, including Patty. And Patty's picture on the Facebook group shows a technique that Rose and I talked about for counting a border, where you do a half cross stitch for 9 of your stitches as you work away across the border. And then for your 10th stitch, you do a full cross stitch. So that way, as you're working along, you know when you've done 10, 20, 30, 40, and that helps for counting as well. So search for Patty, P-A-T-T-I, in the group for a post that she did this morning, and we're recording on Thursday before the December the 3rd. And just see, you can see what she did there.
That is a good point. And I have done that before, and it works really, really well. I tend to sometimes fly by the seat of my pants, but when you do something where you do the half stitches for 9 and the 10th full, you do get an easy way to count. Something that I should mention, just something to put in your mind. If you complete each stitch, if you end up having to, and this happened to me this morning, so I can speak from experience, if you have to take a stitch or two out of your border, it is far easier to do it if you complete each cross than if you do half stitches across and then come back. That's just a little tip that kind of I thought about this morning. I was going to mention something about strategy. I was looking at our chart a little bit more, and there is a box. The border comes around, but it's kind of a long box that covers. So you may want to complete that whole box all the way around, and then just continue on the sides of the border. I think that's it's really individual, but that is one little tip that you might, when you're stitching, might want to complete that box first before filling in the 2 centers, the one with the undulating border and the other with the strawberry border. So just another little tip.
Mhm.
So, okay.
So as we both consult our notes to make sure that we've talked about everything that we wanted to. Okay, so I want to show this. In every chart pack, you would have received one of these cards from Nicola that on one side has the floss color listing and a really handy color key to keep close at hand. And as you move through the pages, this, I know I'm just finishing up Jane Fittis, so I know I can tell you how handy this card is to have nearby. And you can see that I got excited and I filled in my information on the back of my chart with my supplies and the date that I'm going to really start. And so I encourage you all to do that. And then the idea is that once your sampler is finished and framed, you have this mounted on the back paper of your framed piece and you have it to remember your stitching.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that is just a beautiful memento of the stitching that you complete. And it's an heirloom piece, and that really emphasizes that heirloom piece. So I'd encourage everybody to fill that out also. Plus, it's such a handy tool to have beside you to check your colors. And Nicola has done a fantastic job with all of her samplers. Pardon me, my dog. And she usually, most pages has the color codes and the numbers, but I don't always have it right beside me. So I like to take a quick look, and that little bookmark is really, really handy. So keep that close. Don't lose it.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So one other special thing that I want to mention about our stitch along is Nicola, with the samplers that she reproduces, can't stitch the models for all of them. I know she's a stitching machine and she does get a lot of them done, but she can't do them all. But she is so in love with our Anne Morison sampler that even though she didn't get to stitch the model, she's going to stitch along with us so that she has Anne Morison to hang on her wall. So that, yeah, really important.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. When I had heard that she was going to, I thought, what an honor. That really, and I mean, I'm not the owner, but I thought, my goodness, that's an honor. So I think that's awesome. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Rose, you want to talk about the mentorship program, and I know you're mentoring a few people through our Facebook group.
Yes.
So tell me how that
Yes.
works.
Well, the mentorship, as a mentor, I went on to the mentorship part, and you fill out a questionnaire and you get your name on the mentorship program. And anybody that wants to be a mentee, that is looking for a mentor, can go on there and pick a mentor. And through that, they contacted me through a private message to ask, and I think it's set up so it's automatic, whether I'd like to be their mentor. And through that program, with Jane, and I should mention, those ladies from Jane have actually rolled over into Anne, so we will continue this mentorship together. It's become a collaborative friendship, and we've learned from each other. And I admit I don't have all the answers, but I think the mentor-mentee relationship is really vital in not only learning about something new, but also realizing that friendships are made through this, and learning is essential to being successful, and it's all about fun. So I would encourage, I've read a few posts in the last few weeks of people not sure about something, and I actually had seen one just most recently. And something like a mentorship program would be really helpful, even if you just wanted to strike up a friendship with one of the gals, or I'm not sure if there's gentlemen on there or not, so I won't disclude you, but go ahead and go on there if you have questions, if you want to strike up a friendship. It's a really worthwhile program. I can't say enough about it. So yeah, that's the mentorship program.
Excellent. Well, we have stitchers of all kinds in our group. We have people that have been with traditional stitches since the very beginning. And that is another thing through this whole process that has really touched me, is to see so many of our people that have come on board with our sampler. But we also have brand new people to sampler stitching and brand new people to stitching at all, as well as people who are new to linen in our group. So all ranges of stitchers.
You know, that brings up a really good point. You mentioned about new linen stitchers. There are a lot of people that also are stitching her on Ada and have questioned whether they can do it or not, or whether they should. And I'd say go for it. If you're comfortable with Ada for whatever reason, I would encourage you. I'd rather see you stitch it on Ada than not stitch it at all. But if you want to make the move to linen and you're not sure, the mentorship program, that's part of it, or post the questions on the Facebook group if you're not sure. We're all here. We're all teachers and all students. And that's a good point for me to remember, that I don't know it all. But if I think I do, just put my feet in the role of a student and see what they are seeing. And yeah, I guess, yeah, that's all I have to say about that. But yeah, no, I encourage stitchers of all abilities.
Well, and that brings me to what is really our final point about the stitch along, is that we really want everybody to enjoy it. This is a group for encouragement and friendship and positivity and enjoyment. We all need things to enjoy these days, and stitching has been such an important part of my year, and I know how that it's really filled a lot of things for a lot of people during this last year, and I would really like this group to continue that. So please.
No, sorry, you are so right about that. It's been an interesting, unique, and trying year. And as stitchers, I think we are really fortunate that we have a hobby that we love, we enjoy, but we have a community. And that community is this Facebook group and the people that are on this Facebook group. And let's continue the friendships. Let's continue the positive encouragement. And yeah, let's just keep it going.
Okay, should we put some stitches in? Let's just do a few, and then
let's do.
Yeah,
I agree. Okay, so we're good.
It's been such a long time coming. I'm so excited.
I know. You know how many times I've put a stitch in and out the last couple of days? That's probably why my silk floss isn't as long as it was. Okay. So I'm a little bit out of my element here because I'm usually sitting and I'm standing, but that's okay.
Yes, just a few. And I have to put my glasses on.
Okay, well, that's okay, because wouldn't you know it, my thread, there we go, got a knot in it. So yeah. Okay.
Oh, this is so awesome, Rose. I'm so excited.
Maybe we should have started this at the beginning. So I think I'm going to do one stitch at a time.
Yeah.
That is, usually I don't. It's been an interesting day and my brain has been a little bit tired and anxious. So I don't want to make mistakes.
Well, I'm just going to put these few stitches in to say that we did it. And then I'm going to set this aside, and then this is what I'm going to be doing when I get home from the shop on Saturday. I'll get some real serious progress made, and then we'll post some progress pictures, and I cannot wait.
So here's a question for you. What are you planning to, what kind of a stand? Are you using a floor stand, a table stand, in hand?
I believe that I'm using the same stand you're using, which is my Needlework System 4 floor stand.
Perfect.
I like to have a sampler stretched out nice, and I don't need it to be drum tight. Like I notice you're using the side suspenders, and I don't, that's not something that's important to me, but I do like a sampler to be stretched. I started a piece this week that I'm working in hand that is a cross stitch, more of a pictorial type of design, and that's, I'm really enjoying working that in hand, but this is my setup for samplers. I just took Jane Fittis off of this to mount Ann Morison on it.
Okay, okay. I also will be using my Needlework System 4 floor stand. Right at this moment, for this purpose of this video, I am using my table stand. And it's, for those that don't know, it basically is the same component as the floor stand. And I'm standing here at the moment, which is really kind of wonky, but I don't do that. I don't recommend stitching and standing. However, I like my tension tight. I have tensioners that I like to use, and I've got it, you know, fairly tight. I find then I can get a little more speed, and I know you're probably thinking, everyone out there, I don't care whether I go that fast or I can't go that fast, and that's okay. You do you. You go the speed you want. You find the comfort. You find the stand. I have different things, but I always go back to the scroll rods and my Needlework System 4. So,
well,
okay.
everyone, we're going to be really interested to hear what you're using and see your progress. And this is just going to be an awesome year. I'm really, really looking forward to it. So thank you for joining me, Rose.
Thank you, Janice, for all of this. I appreciate everything you have done. You don't know, I don't think anybody knows how much this, you asking me this, I had to look it up. It was the end of June. You had texted me, and my husband and I were driving, and I was like, yes, yes, yes. And then I stopped and I went, oh, why? Why would she want me? So, you know, I mean, this is an incredible honor to be celebrating your 20th in this way. And it's going to be a fun year, everyone, an absolute fun year. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, Janice. And thank you again.
All right. Well, we'll see you soon. And thank you for joining us, everybody. Again, links and information in the comments box below. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.